Biology Part 156. Modification of behavior. The behavior of most animals alters with time. Often this is the result of development processes. For example, newly hatched chickens peck at small objects and their accuracy measured by the scatter of pecking attempts improves over the first few days of life. A similar reduction in scatter is observed if the chicks are made to wear hoods with prisms so that they can consistently aim wide, or even if the chicks are prevented from pecking for the first few days. Effects of this sort are described as maturation and must be attributed to the changes in the neuromuscular system of the chick, which do not vary with the experience. On the other hand, many changes in behavior result directly from experience and can be properly described as learning. While reading about the differences of varieties of learning, we should remember that an animal's capacity to learn and its ability to learn particular things depend on the structure of its sense organs and nervous system, which are largely determined in terms of organisms' genetic inheritance. Learning introduces a degree of flexibility into the lives of many animals, allowing them to respond more adaptively to their surroundings. Number one, habituation. A sudden shadow causes ringworm nereis to retreat into the burrow. However, if the stimulus is repeated at intervals, the response becomes less pronounced and eventually fades away. This is an example of a simple form of learning known as habituation. In general, habituation enables organisms to ignore repeated stimuli which are not followed by any significant cost or benefit. Number two, inspiring. Shortly after hatching, ducklings and other young birds have a tendency to follow moving objects in their surroundings and show a brief sensitive period during which the shape and form of objects can be imprinted, with the result that the young birds will follow them selectively. Normally, of course, the first moving object encountered is the mother bird, and it is obviously adaptive for the young birds to learn her appearance and to follow her. However, if its parents are absent, a young bird may imprint on other species of birds, human beings, or inanimate objects. In later life, such birds will attempt to court and mate with the imprinted objects in preference to adults of their own species. Number three, conditioning. One type of conditioning, known as classical conditioning, takes place when a new stimulus is presented together with the normal stimulus for a reflex activity. In the early 1900s, the Russian physiologist Pavlov investigated salivation in the dogs and discovered that they could easily be trained to salivate in response to the sound of a bell and produce just as much saliva as they did in response to a small quantity of food placed in the mouth. In conditioning trials, the new stimulus bell, which Pavlov named as conditional stimulus, was given immediately before the normal stimulus food. which he referred to as the unconditional stimulus. At first, salivation occurred only in response to food, an unconditional response. But after few trials, the dogs began to salivate before the food was given, and eventually the conditioned stimulus on its own was sufficient to produce a full response, now called as conditioned response.